Yo, what is good with y'all? In this tutorial, I'll be breaking down 3 of my favorite grunge effects right now. All 3 of these are extremely fire and I'll try to keep it as plugin free as I can. But without any further ado, let's hop right into this tutorial. So I'm in After Effects and I have these 3 scenes right here, and as you can see, they all have these grunge effects, and I'll be breaking them down step by step. So let's hop right into the first one. And as you can see, it's called Black and White Static because I just applied it from my VFX Kit plugin. So with just one click, you can get these type of effects. And we also have this crazy AI that can analyze your scenes and your song, and based off that, it will edit your music video and add a bunch of VFX to it. But let's delete these adjustment layers and create a new one. Either Ctrl-Alt-Y or right click, go to new and create a new adjustment layer. And we can start off with a noise effect, and we'll just bump this up to like 20%. And then let's go for the mosaic effect, and I'll bump this up. Let's see, let's do like 200. You could even go a bit higher, like 230. If that's what you prefer. I think this looks a bit cleaner. Next up, let's go for the threshold effect, and this is what gives us that black and white look. And with the mosaic underneath, you can see we're getting that blocky look instead, and I'm a huge fan of it. So let's drag down the threshold to something that fits our scene. 120 is good for my scene, but this is completely up to you and the scene that you work. Maybe 110 is a bit better for me. Next up, I'll add another noise on top of that. And let's go for like 15% on this one. This is just to get the noise inside of these black parts, because the one underneath the threshold does not work like that. And I'll change it to key out brighter, and let's bump up the threshold to like 250. So something like this. And as you can see, it's starting to look really fire. But we also have to add on the NTSC effect. And if you don't have it, this is a plugin, but it's completely free, so I'll leave it linked in the description for you to download. But we can start off with the composite pre-emphasis and turn it up to 2. And then next, let's go down to the composite noise and bump up the intensity to 100%. And for the frequency, we can go for 1. Next, for the snow, let's bump that up to 2. And then let's go down to the tracking noise and let's bump up the height to 120. And that gives us this kind of VHS look down here. So if we disable it, it will look like this. But with it enabled, it will look super fire. We could also bump up the snow intensity to 0.6. So now it's a bit stronger. And yeah, that's about it. We can scroll down a bit and just bump up the final chroma phase noise down here to 90%. But now I'm pretty much done. Of course, you can go through and mess around with a bunch of other effects, because as you can see, there are a bunch of things we can mess with in here. But I feel like this is kind of the sweet spot for me. This is what I usually go for, and it looks super fire. Next, we'll just add on 2 final effects to kind of spice this up a little bit. We'll go for a wave warp, and we'll set the wave type to smooth noise. Then we can go for a horizontal direction. So now, as you can see, it's horizontal by changing the direction to 0, and then I'll bump it up to 20. And then finally, let's top this off with the unsharp mask effect. Let's bump up the amount to 75, and let's go for 5 at the radius. So this is basically it. So if we play through, this is what it looks like. Super fire effect. And once again, it's inside the VFX kit. I'll have a link below if you want to check it out for yourself. But now if you want to save this as your own preset, then just select all of these effects in here. Go to animation, save animation preset, and then just name it whatever you want. Now let's hop right into the next effect. We have this one right here. It looks super fire, but it looks even better on lower resolution. So like at 3rd, you can see it's looking super fire. I'll show you how to do this effect, and also you can lower the resolution yourself before you export it out. But let's delete this adjustment layer and let's start from scratch. I created a new adjustment layer in here, and we can start off with the CC vignette effect. And for the vignette, we're gonna go for like 130 at the amount, and that's about it. Next, I'll go for a noise, and I'll bump it up to 25%. It's a bit strong, but it will look good in a second. Next up, I'll go for the radial blur effect, and we can keep the amount at 10. You can mess with the center if you want to, but I'll keep it at the center. Only time I would really mess with it is if you have like a subject and his face is like right here. Then maybe you can move it there. Next up, I'll go for the CC threshold RGB effect. And to be honest, to create these kind of effects, I just mess around with this. I'll go for 60 for the red, 60 for the blue, then 180 for the green, maybe 68 for the blue, just to mess around a bit. But this is good. Next, I'll go for the invert effect, and let's go for blue right here. And then I'll apply the vibrance effect. And for the vibrance, let's go for 100. And for the saturation, let's go for -50. And then we can add on a glow. We'll have a bunch of these, but let's go for a subtle one right here. And then duplicate it once again. And for this one, let's turn up the glow radius to 500 and the intensity to 1. And then we can mess around a little bit. Or we can actually go a bit lower, like 0.7 for the intensity. And then finally, let's add a noise effect. And for this one, let's go for 50%. Super fire. And then we have one effect that I actually missed, and it's one of the most important ones. It's the curves effect, and this is what will give us that crazy look. I'll drop it in between the radial blur and the CC threshold. And then what I'll do is I'll change it to this one right here, which is this pen. And basically what we can do with this one is we can just go crazy with it. I'll just draw some random stuff right here for the red one, then go to the green one, do the same. And then for the blue one, let's do the exact same. Now you do have to tweak it a little bit to get something that looks good, but this is what I got right here. I just messed with that a lot. You can see the green one right here went up, then just straight again. Blue one, just random straight lines like this. And then the red one, you can see it's a lot up and down, and that's what gives us this kind of look. And for the alpha, I didn't do anything, but for the RGB, I also messed around like this. And as you can see, we get some fire looks by doing that. Super fire effect, one thing I want to do before I export it out is lower down this noise a bit. Let's go for 25. And then we'll check what resolution looks best for this effect. Half looks super fire, but I think that third is probably the sweet spot. Quarter is a bit too low, and half looks a bit too clean. So let's go for third. And now I'll just export out this scene. So I'll add it to render queue and just name it whatever you want. And then I'll click on this one right here that says best settings. And then I'll open up resolution, change it to third, and then you just export it out. So the next and final effect that I'm going to go through is this one right here. This is super fire mirror effect. And once again, it's inside of the effects kit, link to the description, go check it out. But let's break it down step by step. I'll hide all of these effects and I'll create a new adjustment layer. So we basically start off with the tint. And this effect is essential to get that black and white look. Nothing crazy. Then we can add on the add grain effect. And we'll change the viewing mode to final output. And we can keep the intensity at 1, but let's turn down the size to 0.7. Next, I'll go for the threshold effect once again. It's a super fire effect when it comes to creating these dark styles. And I'll turn it down a lot. Let's go for like 80, maybe 90, maybe even a bit lower. Let's go 70. Next up, I'll add on a noise and I'll turn it up to 50%. Once again, just to get noise in these black parts right here. And now all I need to do is center this. So easiest way to do this is just grab the value right here and divide it by 2, and now it's in the center. That's a smart hack, but let's add on the circle effect. So first off, I'm going to size this up, so something like this. And then for the blending mode, let's go for stencil alpha right here. And now if you want to add some feather in here, just open up the feather tab and just drag up the feather outer edge, and I'll just turn it up to like 15. But I'm not really a huge fan of this feathered look. So actually what I'll do is I'll turn it down to 0, and instead I'll add on the roughen edges effect. And with this effect, you can just get some fire edges. I'll turn on transparency just to see it a bit clearer, but we can go for something like the rusty, and we can go for something like the spiky preset. And as you can see, I just dried up my border a bit. But yeah, just go ahead, tweak this, turn up the edge sharpness a bit, and you don't want to have something that's too crazy. So I'm going to try to keep it clean, but something like this should do. I turned up the complexity to 3, and then just bumped up both of these, and that's basically it. And now if you mix this with a feather as well, we'll get this look. That's a bit cooler in my opinion. So I'll turn up the feather to 35, and that's basically it. That were 3 of my favorite Grunge effects at the moment. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I mentioned a bunch of times, my plugin VFX kit is linked in the description. I also have a bunch of other preset packs, and the plugin is super fire. Has this AI assistant, also has 175 effects inside of these 7 different tabs, so you can just apply with one click. Super fire plugin. If you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description. But thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.